What is going on, guys? And welcome back to another episode of Talkin with Andrew and Chris.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Chris. And this is a show about life, music, and everything in between. If any of those things fall in your radar, then you are in the right place. Not only do we just sort of chat sometimes and talk about whatever comes into our mind, like I might ask Andrew, like, hey, Andrew, how much do you love Avenged Sevenfold?
I would say at least Avenged 70%.
And would you honestly, like seriously, would you say they're in like your top 50 of all time? Because I would say they're in mine. I was thinking about this morning.
Top 50 bands?
Bands of all time. Yeah.
Are you asking me my favorite or the best?
Like the best, like talent
Um,
wise. They got to be up there, right?
I mean, easily top 300.
Easily see, and guys, this is the kind of stuff you can get on this show because yes, sometimes we do interview guests. Sometimes we do have set topics. Like today, of course, we're going to be discussing Miley Cyrus's newest album. But sometimes we just kind of roll and see where it takes us. I mean, we talk about video games, we talk about our friendship, which I would say is rocky at best at times, but right now it seems to be in a good place. So we're here and we're giving you a podcast.
It
And
seems pretty good because neither of us made our fantasy football playoffs, so we don't have to be mad at each other or anything.
we're not at each other's throats. Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
So this is the deal, guys. This is Talking with Andrew and Chris, and we thank you for joining us. So Andrew actually didn't pick today's topic, but he sent me this record. He put it on my radar because he knows I'm a bit of a bipolar music listener. Sometimes I get angry at certain genres and I shouldn't, but I do because I'm human. I'm only human.
He's a sensitive guy.
Yeah, well, we don't need to get into that. I need, let's save that for my therapy appointment, which I don't. Well, whatever. Anyways, Andrew, what are we talking about today?
Well, you already said it, but we are talking about Miley Cyrus's new album, Plastic Hearts. Whoa, it's exciting for YouTube. Um,
Don't say
I mean,
no.
listen, I haven't been like the biggest Miley Cyrus fan. I've never really hated her. I remember when she was on Hannah Montana, I definitely had a huge crush on her when she was Miley and not Hannah. Um,
Yeah,
so I
totally.
remember that. I also remember when that song Seven Things came out. That was a bop.
Ooh, banger. My old band
That's a
covered that.
banger.
We
Really?
we
Wait,
we
which
covered
one?
that in the break contest. Me and Ronnie and Jeremy, Will, the gang. We played because you had to do a
Wow.
cover
Right.
in each round. So
Hmm.
each round they required you to do a different cover. So the first cover we did was Paparazzi by Lady Gaga, and then the second round we did Seven Things by Miley Cyrus. And I forget what we did
Wow.
for the finale. I think we did Bruno Mars. He had just broken. This is how long ago this was. But
Mm,
one of
wow.
Bruno's first big hits. But yeah, we
That's that's awesome.
yeah, it was a good time. So I go deep with Miley Cyrus, man. Like we go way back. I had a little have a little sister growing up. I guess I use the past tense because she's since moved out. But dude, I wasn't complaining. Like I've said on the show before, when it was dinner time and the TV was on in the background, and of course the kids get the TV because you want to shut them up if they're crazy and spoiled and whatnot. And so
And when you're a spoiled kid, the youngest one is usually the more spoiled one.
that's a fact. And so basically sometimes Jonas Brothers would come on, and I'd be like, I'd put up the act like, man, this sucks. Like, Rocco's Modern Life is
Put
on or
put on some
something.
Metallica.
And then sometimes like Hannah Montana would come on, and I'd be like, man, this is terrible. But like, I want to see what happens next because it was kind of fire. And
Exactly.
by kind of fire, I mean actually fire.
You want to see if she ends up with Jake or not.
I forgot his name, but yeah, it was a good show, point being. And I remember that set and all that. Like Disney had some iconic old school sets. So point being, I go deep with Miley Cyrus. I've been
Mhm. Mhm.
not a fan for a long time, but like I've never hated on her. She's like
Right.
one of the few pop artists who actually when I was in my old hardcore band, I would sound check with Party in the USA because I thought it
I
was
remember
so
that.
funny.
I
Yeah,
remember that.
I don't think anyone really enjoyed it quite as much as I did. I think my bandmates actually hated it, but I just
I thought
thought
it
it
was
was
funny.
so funny being the heaviest band on the bill every show, and yet I'm sound checking, ripping like this. Like
Yeah.
I used to riff Miley Cyrus and
I
the
was gonna
Jonas
say
Brothers. I would
you
riff
get yeah, you get up there to go yeah.
yeah, I do like all that
Yeah. I
sound
love
check, and
that.
I just thought it was hilarious. But it's also because I kind of liked it. So
Especially with your guitar tone being not the same guitar tone that was on the Jonas Brothers chorus, would be like,
yeah,
"Bow."
for all my gearheads out there, I had a Mesa Boogie triple rec running through a Marshall 1960s B cab, and of course, I had the Schecter Diamond Series super metal guitar. So
Right,
it
and
quite
if
didn't sound like the record.
and when you put those three together, you're basically asking the audience to beat each other up during your set. Like, there's no other option.
Essentially, especially when you put it in drop B tuning. So
Oof, that's
yeah,
low.
which I can't play the guitar anymore because it's so destroyed from being in an idiotic tuning. The heaviest band of all time, in my opinion, even though I really dislike them, is Pantera, and they played just a half step down. So take notes,
Wow,
people. Yeah.
that's really
Anyways, we're
saying
not here to
something.
talk about heavy music. It's come up quite a bit today.
No, but we are here to talk about rock music, technically.
Yeah, we can get into that. So Andrew, let's get our first impressions going of this record, man. What were your first impressions of Miley Cyrus's newest album? I believe it's Paper Hearts, Plastic Hearts, Plastic Hearts. Yeah, that's the one.
Plastic Hearts. Now,
Hmm.
so you've got a Treyu on the brain now. Paper
Yeah, I
Hearts,
do.
or
And that's maybe
paper
that's
anchors and
supposed
lead
to be
sails.
Oh man, we're gonna listen to that. Me and Andrew are going to get haircuts today from I know this barber, Paul, great dude. I can't wait for Andrew to meet him, and we're
He's
gonna go get
he's
haircuts. So
definitely not my dad or anything.
we may have to go listen to it in the car. That Atreyu record.
Listen, I do like that album. Anyway, so Plastic Hearts by Miley Cyrus. When did
Hmm.
the first single come out? The first single was which one? It was Midnight Sky in August. I definitely remember that song coming out. I didn't really like give it a full listen. I just, heard it on the radio or whatever. I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. Miley coming out with new songs. Typical. Seems cool. Everybody loves Miley, so why not? And then Prisoner came out last month, and I saw it, but I didn't listen to it. Like, I saw that it came out, I didn't listen to it, but Dua Lipa
That's
was on it, so I,
the yeah,
yeah,
exactly. I was gonna say.
yeah, I knew everybody would love that one, and I was like, that's cool. And then when the album came out, somebody that I was following on Instagram like posted a snippet of the song. I think it was Plastic Hearts, and I was like, yo, this sounds ripping. Sounds really cool. I got to give this a shot. And then the opening track, What the Fuck Do I Know? It just like it just starts with this cool little bass line, and then she comes in with like that classic rock melody, like you've heard it a million times, but it's always really
Yeah,
fun.
it's the arena rock melody.
Exactly, and then it goes into that cool bridge with the little like the rim shots and the ding 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 ding, and just
It's
like
it,
it's
it's
like it's
essentially
definitely not a
like
new sound, but I love that sound, and I think that she pulled it off really well, and
the way I
it was
describe
just really
that sound
awesome.
is pop band finally gets out of their first contract, first management agency, whatever. They're independent for the first time, and they want to show the world that they're a band. So they want to show people they can rock. And what do?
Right,
They take the Nickelback chord progressions and beef it up. They bump up that BPM 10 BPM faster than their 120 pop BPM that they've been writing with under their old management company, and they let it rip. That's how I describe that sound. But it really works in this situation. But it's
right.
it's a pretty it's a pretty like, hey, I'm going rock and roll sound, in my opinion. It's a little
Right.
cookie cutter.
I didn't get that impression when I listened to it. I just thought it was really cool, and I knew that Miley has always kind of like been in the old, like she's always had her foot in the old school door, even though she was putting out a lot of like not rock, sorry, pop and like even borderline hip hop songs and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah, but
so
she's an odd case because she's a child star, and so she's been around for a long time.
right, but she also like. I mean, as far as I know, is like a trained singer. She wasn't just like some pop star that they were like, "Oh, people like you. You should be a singer too." Like she's always known how to sing and stuff. And I
Oh, of
feel like
course.
on
Well, I
this
mean,
album,
we
obviously
don't.
she belts stuff out all the time. It's amazing.
I don't think we really need to tell people, but just in case no one knows, her father was like a famous country musician who wrote a very famous country song called "Achy Breaky Heart." That's Billy Ray Cyrus. Her older brother is the singer of Metro Station. Um, Ever heard of a song called "Shake It" from back in the day? And of course, her little sister is now sort of rising to popularity. She's a pretty
Hmm.
good singer as well. So, she comes from a family of very talented musicians. Whether or not she writes for herself or isn't even in the room when the songs are written, like she's got other things to worry about. She's got to dance, she's got to
Well,
perform, she's got to.
her name is on every song as a writer, so she is there at least co-writing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I also and I did know that, and I respect her for being one of the few big name pop stars who actually does that. So, like, my first impression of the record, and the reason why I bring that up is I was listening to the album, and then I saw she was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I was like, okay, well, if we're covering it on the show, if there was ever a time, now's the time to go back and listen to this podcast. And instantly, like the rest of the world, I was shocked by how raspy and hoarse her voice had become. And I was really hoping she would address it, and they address it pretty early on because Joe's a pretty good interviewer, and he just got right to it. And he was just like, "You sound very different." And I have a lot of Miley Cyrus, Hannah Montana on in the house because Joe has, two daughters that are around that age that would just love the Hannah Montana show. So he's always talking about that. And she was finally on the show. So it was pretty funny for him to meet
Hmm.
someone who was like a celebrity in his kids' eyes. And of course, a celebrity in the real world. But like, he's like,
Right.
this is one of the episodes where my daughters think what I do is actually cool.
Love
and
that.
yeah, so basically, they quickly address it. And she had went from having this adrenaline that she described from touring all night and being on the road her entire upbringing from 12 years old on, touring as Hannah Montana, then later just breaking out into her own with that first record, which had like, I think Party in the USA and a couple other hits on it. And
I just looked last night. That album is only like 7 songs long. It's crazy. It was pretty much like Party in the USA and then like five other ones.
yeah, I wonder if she back in the day did, and let us know in the comments, did she tour with some of those Hannah Montana songs and then obviously over time work those out and eventually
as
bring in the
as
new
far
record?
as I know, she first did tours that were like Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus, where she'd do Hannah Montana songs dressed up as Hannah Montana, and then she'd leave and then come back as Miley and do some Miley
Oh,
songs.
cool. Smart
So as
transition
far
type
as
thing.
I know, she never did any Hannah Montana songs as Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, okay, that's smart. I like that.
Which I
Yeah,
also think
so
is probably partly because after Can't Be Tamed, that was on Hollywood Records, but after that she moved to Sony and RCA. So I have a feeling that Disney was like, yeah, obviously you could play your songs, but like Hannah Montana stuff maybe is like, don't do that anymore or something.
yeah, so Andrew, let me tell you something that you don't know real quick. Basically, you guess you missed that. It's a reference to one of the songs, the first song actually. What the F do I know? But so she was going, she said she described it from sort of staying up all night after the shows as like a 12, 13-year old just high off adrenaline and cannot believe this is her life and homesickness and all that type of stuff that I'm sure a little kid on the road feels too quickly when she's like 4 or 5 years later, 16, 17, 18, like starting to drink and smoke a little bit after the shows. Then it turned into smoking and drinking a lot after the shows. Then it turned into staying out all night doing that stuff after the shows, sleeping for 4 hours on the way to the next show, and then sort of pumping herself up again with like adrenaline and like vitamins and stuff and getting back out there and doing it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And so no one told her, she said, they told her how to sing properly, they told her how to dance properly, but they never told her how to maintain those types of things, how to like maintain her body as a performer. And so she really suffered. I forget the name of her ailment, but she had come down with something very intense and almost rare to have happen with the amount of abuse she put on it. It happens to a lot of broadcasters, like people who have been in talk radio for years and never took a vocal lesson and just got up there every day and just talked and talked and talked. And when they were feeling sick, didn't rest. Like those guys who never took a day off, the old
Mm-hmm.
timers. Um, just turn on the AM radio and you'll hear the way their voices sound. My vocal doctor tells me my voice sounds great because I rest it, but she wasn't resting it. And you can hear those things if you're a trained singer or performer or doctor. Even you could just walk on the room and he'll know if you have an issue or not. He'll know when I was a little sick, my doctor. He'll know when I haven't been sick for a while. They just have a great ear. Then he'll go down with the scope and he'll see that. So she never had anyone to monitor her like that. So she had to get this surgery where basically she couldn't speak, make a sound, she couldn't like burp, she couldn't belch, she couldn't anything out of her, like she had to be really careful with her diet. If she had any acid reflux, it would damage the surgery. And for six
Mm-hmm.
months she couldn't speak. That's how she almost lost her voice. Go watch the Backstreet Boys documentary. I'm not a doctor. I don't know if it's the same thing, but it's the same severity that the oldest Backstreet Boys member had. If you've seen in that documentary, he almost lost his voice, and now sometimes he can't even hit those high notes. It doesn't come out when he goes for him. She was almost there. Like Chad
Mm-hmm.
Kroger had the same thing happen to her as well. So some points of reference there. So I think like knowing all of that, hearing her speak on the Joe Rogan podcast, hearing her story, it enriched the experience, but it also kind of like to me, there's brilliant musicianship here because even if she didn't want to take this rockier edge, this more sort of like homage esque style to Stevie Nicks and Joan Jett, some of the female singers on the record, or even like Pat Benatar, who were like the raspy women in rock and roll, like you had back in the day Celine Dion and Cyndi Lauper, like Celine Dion, sorry, who were like the big pop female stars that didn't have the rock edge. They both obviously rocked out, but they had the cleaner voices, and Madonna had the cleaner voice. So she wasn't like cutting a record like Miley Cyrus. And I think they worked with where her voice was at. And I think that was brilliant. I think some of the songs are a little corny and a little cheesy, although I really like the record overall. But I think not that she doesn't have much to work with, but she can never sound like the Wrecking Ball Miley Cyrus again. There's just too much rasp on it. Her voice is lowered like almost a full octave because of what happened to her, the trauma and the stress on the surgery. So they really worked with what she had. And to me, that's like the big feat is the engineering and the writing behind it to still make her a success with all that she's been through.
Okay. Well, I didn't watch that Joe Rogan thing, but I also think that she just wanted to make a rock album. I don't think that it was like I have to make an album and my voice sounds like this, so let me think about the best way I could do that. Like, I think she just writes whatever she writes and then goes into the studio and the producers do what they do and all that stuff. So as much as I think, I'm sure that her voice has suffered over the years and all this stuff, I think that she's still, like, if you watch any of her live stuff right now, it still sounds incredible. Like, I don't think that she's, like, she sounds different, but I don't think that sounds worse. She could definitely, like, if you watch, she just did a live version of Midnight Sky that's, like, full band and doesn't have, it's like, it's a way different version of it. Like, it sounds like an old lounge song kind of thing. And, she's just belting them out, and it's, like, I'm not a vocal expert, but I feel like she has so much vocal control that I don't hear a lot in like a Katy Perry or a Kesha or something, which, like, not to knock them at all. They're both incredible singers also, but I don't know. And
well, here I would rank
as
their vocal control real quick. I'd say it would go Miley Cyrus, the most vocal control, Katy Perry, then Kesha. You don't lose vocal control from damaging your voice. Your voice just changed tonally, and the octaves change naturally if you put damage on it. If you have polyps, your vocal cords basically they tighten, and the closer they get to being fully closed is the higher you can go. So if you put polyps there's a bump that makes you not be able to tighten it as much. That's kind of what happens.
Okay. Either way, though, I think that even though this is, it peaked at, where was it on these charts? It was the #1 U.S. top rock album, like, on Billboard when it released, and it was #2 on the Billboard 200. Now, as we can see from, like, the Grammys and stuff, like,
#2 overall.
Yeah, like, as you can see from, like, these charts, and if you just watch the Grammys ever, like, normal people, I'm doing air quotes for those who can't see me, normal people and, like, record executives and people in the industry have a different definition of rock and roll because, like, Exhibit A, Lord won Best Rock Album one year at the Grammys, and I'm like, okay, like, I'm not saying the album's bad, but would it be a rock album? I don't know about that. So as much as this is considered a rock album, I think that I wouldn't call, like, Midnight Sky or Prisoner or even maybe Golden G-String rock songs, and I think that those are all really dope songs, and I think that she sounds incredible on them, and I don't think she sounds out of place. So even if the rasp obviously lends to the rock, like Plastic Hearts and High, which is one of my favorite songs on the entire album, like, I think that she could still put out an album that was only songs like Prisoner, and I would still love it, and I think she'd still kick ass at it. And I'm sure that she still crushes Party in the USA.
No, yeah, I'm not saying she can't do pop anymore. I want to know who was behind the decision to put this rock edge forward. I mean, because it is.
Well, she's also grown up with her family who have been, like, country stars / rock stars, like, all the time. So I'm sure that she's always loved rock music.
Yeah, no, to me it just seems like it was not only a smart decision because of the state of her voice. Like, I don't think she could ever sing a chorus like Party in the USA again, super high and clean. Even in the Dua Lipa song, where it's like that's arguably one of the most pop ones. It's got like that Daft Punk feel where it's like they have the fake Lin drum kit, but it's replicating a real drum kit, and they have the actual bass line, but it's a pop song. It's not really a rock song. It's a pop. If anything, you could say it's pop rock, but it's not seen. So whatever.
If
We're
anything,
getting metatextual there, but
to get real technical, I would just call it rock pop.
Sure, and I think that's a perfect description. But, like, even when she goes for the high notes there, you can hear between her and Dua Lipa, she's pretty clean, Dua Lipa. Miley Cyrus has that dirt, that grit now, where I don't think she would have had it 4 or 5 years ago. But it's awesome. I think it's great. It's actually, I think this is the best she's ever sounded, to be honest with you, because she sounds so unique now. I just think it was also a smart business decision, whether they planned it or not, to give her this, like, A, we're tapping into the old 80s sound. We have the old 80s aesthetic. That's why I threw the album cover up on the screen right now. YouTube.com/talking with Andrew and Chris. For all you audio listeners, please drop us and subscribe, like, the comment. It would mean a lot because we're trying to grow this thing and YouTube's the number one way. And then the third reason why I really like it is because it shows a different side of her. We could have gotten another album with Wrecking Ball. It's been 3 years since she put out a last record. Usually pop stars are pretty on point with that. Like, they keep them coming. And sure, she's done some singles, but I mean, I don't know. We were in the pop band at the time she was dropping those singles last year, and they didn't have much staying power. Let's be honest. They were here today, gone tomorrow. They weren't terrible
Yeah,
songs.
I honestly like after Bangers, I honestly had no idea that she put out 2 albums.
Exactly. And
When
I
I
know
went
that she
back and
did
saw,
that.
I was like, what? When did those even come out? I didn't even know what the singles were.
I know she did that Dead Pets album with the singer of the Flaming Lips, who apparently
Oh
she's
yeah,
pretty.
yeah, that I knew about. That was like a whole project.
But I mean, and I respect that. That's like her art pop album for me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a terrible record, but like this to me feels like getting back to like the Bangers mentality in a completely new and refreshing way.
Right.
So I kind of wanted to dive in though real quick because overall, like, I like the record. I think it was smart. Whether they planned it or not, it works with the way her voice is. It will never
For
be
sure.
that clean, pristine voice again, but I like the dirt on it. You know, I think it actually suits it really well. And the same reason I want to come back to this because you said something along the lines of like the way the Grammys see music and all that. So the same
Mm-hmm.
reason that she's considered rock music is the same reason now that I want to argue that, well, why did the Midnight not, I mean, not the Midnight, I'm sorry, the Weekend, who now sounds like the Midnight, why did he not, why was he not under the rock category? He has all the same instrumentation as Miley Cyrus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why are the Grammys not nominating him under rock and him under pop? And why are they nominating Haim under pop or under rock when they're clearly way more pop on this newer record than the Midnight, who has real drums on every song pretty much. Real, I mean, the Weekend, I can't keep doing that. It's like he really just borrowed from the synthwave scene in a way that's like unapologetic. But you know what I'm trying to say? It's like they just want to give all the people they like in their club a win. So they're like, okay, you're going to be stronger in this side for now. So we can make this argument pretty loosely, but we're going to do it. And so,
Right.
Miley, we can't really have you going against Dua Lipa right now because she's like the biggest thing on the planet. And her new album's obviously got to be up for pop, but we want both of you to win. So we're going to tuck you in here. It's a bit ridiculous. And that's why I don't like the Grammys and all that because, yeah, this is like, it's
Right.
not fully a rock record. It's not
Like
fully a
this
pop
year.
record. It's not fully, because there's even High as like a country song. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you categorize this?
Right. And then you have this stuff with the Grammy. I mean, honestly, I can't really. Not necessarily. I don't respect the Grammys because obviously they're the Grammys.
I
But
don't.
I don't. Well, I just meant in the sense of like it's still cool to get a Grammy. Um, like most people don't say no to a Grammy. But anyway, what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I'm scratching my foot. Is that like I don't. It's just clear if you pay attention to music like at all, it's just so clear that the Grammys are not run by people who like actually care about music. Like point in case a couple months ago when they changed what was it, was like world music to global music or something. And
Hmm.
it's like they didn't even expand it to give more categories to people that aren't in America. They were just like, let's just change the name from world to globe. And it's like,
I didn't
what the
even hear
fuck?
about that.
And it's like, what the fuck is the point of that? No one asked to change the name. They were like, hey, how about some more inclusion besides including like all of the other artists in the world that have a different genre that aren't just rock or pop or
Right.
whatever the Grammys decide is rock and pop. It's just all globe music. It's not anything else. And it's just like you like the Grammy, whoever's in charge of that stuff, it has to be the most disconnected human being from anybody else on earth because it's like if he's like, okay, I hear you, everyone on earth this year, like everyone needs to be equal, we need representation, we need all this stuff, everybody needs inclusion, so let's just change the name from world to globe because that's good, right? Globe is a lot less like racist or something than the word world, right? I'm like, who is in charge of this stuff?
Yeah. It's almost like
Doesn't
he
make any
thought,
sense.
yeah, exactly. He thought he could pull a fast one there, it seems.
Yeah.
And I don't even think it's like one specific person. I mean, I feel like it functions the same way as the Oscars do, where it's like everyone's always thanking the Academy. It's got to be a
Right.
collective of people who have earned a set amount of credentials to be on this like sort of voting, chamber,
Right.
whatever organization, almost like a Senate for music. But I would never turn down a Grammy because I feel like I'm pretty business minded and I know what that opens up in regards to your wallet and your legacy and longevity. But I certainly wouldn't show up, and I uh, I would just be like, cool. I mean, my award would
Right.
be sort of connecting with people and making music that like matters to me.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I just think it's like I don't like art as a competition. Like if you check out my other podcast, like Dom's always like talking about the Oscars, and I'm like, dude, like you always say that you hate the Oscars, yet you're always bringing them up,
Hmm.
and it's like let's unpack that. We never do, but it's like they have this pull on us that sort of sways our opinions on things, and I think it's wrong, and I think it can mislead people, and I also think it hurts. If you go back to our history of rock music, or the state of modern rock rather, that podcast we did, I think it hurts certain genres, mislabeling them, because then when
Hmm.
people actually dig deep into what rock is, oh wait, there's not synth pads and 808 kick drums underneath every every song. There's actual
Right.
real recorded drums that sometimes sound a little shitty because the artist wanted to do it live. This isn't rock. The Grammys didn't say this was rock. Kind of
Right.
kills livelihoods if you think about it.
Hmm.
But
Well, I think it's just like the Grammys are weird. I know we're kind of going off on a tangent right now,
mhm.
but
It's a good one though.
I'll finish it with this. It's just like the Grammys are weird because like obviously we just brought up a lot of problems that we have with the Grammys and a lot of gripes and things that are annoying and why you really shouldn't have the Grammys be the end all be all authority on what's good music and all that. But as people, I mean, I guess we've been conditioned like this, but it's like you see an artist like Beyonce or something, it says like, oh yeah, Beyonce has like 8 Grammys, or like she won 8 Grammys at one Grammy Awards thing, and you're like, wow, that's impressive. She must be really talented. So like, it's weird because I'm sure that most people who win a Grammy are deserving of that Grammy. Like I'm sure that most of them are not just handed out or just like, well, we couldn't put you in this category because we do want you to win, so we'll put you in this category. But it's just a weird thing, like with Justin Bieber. Like Justin Bieber, arguably one of the biggest musical artists of all time. I mean, that's not really arguable, but either way, very successful. Sold a lot of copies of records and all that stuff. So he
Of the
has
modern
like
day, for sure, certainly.
yeah, yeah. So like he has, like platinum songs and platinum albums because of how much he sold, but then he didn't get nominated for a Grammy for like a long time, which everyone was like, "What's going on? Why isn't he getting nominated?" And it's like, I mean, that is kind of weird since he's Justin Bieber. You'd think the Grammys would want to give him a Grammy, but at the same time, I guess like he doesn't. They don't want to give it to him because he was like a troublemaking kid or something. And then this year, he gets nominated for pop album with Changes, and he put this post up that was like, he's like, obviously, I'm extremely grateful to be nominated for a Grammy. It's always awesome to be recognized like that. But I just feel like it's weird that I'm in the pop category when this is clearly an R&B album. Like I
He
really
gets it.
worked hard. Yeah, he was like every part of this album, like the production, the melodies, even the drum sounds, everything is R&B, and like that's what I was doing. And to be put in the pop category just feels kind of like they don't give a shit. And again, I'm not trying to sound ungrateful, but I'm just confused. Was
Yeah,
basically
he
what he said.
Justin nailed it, man.
Yeah,
It's
and obviously he got a lot of shit for that because everyone was like, "Dude, shut up! You still got nominated. Like, why are you being ungrateful?" And it's like, no, you don't get it. He gets it. Like,
and I do think that it is a payola type industry thing. Just look at Spotify and how, unless you're on like RCA, Sony, or whatever, you're really hard pressed to find yourself in that New Music Friday if you happen to be in a more competitive style of music that requires constant. The rule of marketing is if you're in front of someone's face 7 times, they're more likely to click on you, give you a play, buy your product. So if
right,
you're in pop,
and
you better be in that New Music Friday. You better be in those coinciding playlists. And usually, how you get in those is by being signed to one of those labels that signed a backdoor deal with Spotify years ago when they saw the way things were
yes,
changing. I have
yes,
no reason to believe the Grammys aren't like that.
and the other fucked up thing with Spotify that I recently learned was that like as much as obviously they pay you per play and stuff like that, like all the streaming platforms do, they do it in a way that's like it's not just that you solely get paid based on how many times people listen to your song. It's like you get paid based on how many people are listening to your song compared to like other songs. So like you need to be up there being listened to
Oh, I
get
didn't know
paid like
that.
at all. It's like a weird algorithm that like
What?
it's not like it's so crazy. Like you
Can you
get
link me
more.
like an article or something to that?
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna.
want to post
I'll
that.
f- I'll find it when we're done recording because
Okay.
it
Yeah,
just
if you don't
it just
mind,
came and went, but
I'd kind of want to
it was fucked up.
maybe post that in the description or something so people can check that out, because I had heard, and actually I know this to be true, you can look this up. Spotify pays you in regards to how long through the song people listen. So your click through rate, if they get bored 2 minutes in, well, you're not getting paid the full 3 minutes of the song. You're only getting paid
Hmm.
that 2 minutes if they skip at
Right.
the 2 minute mark. But let's this was good. I enjoy jumping off on these side tangents, but let's use the back end of this podcast here to really dive in and dissect this album. So I kind of wanted to ask you, this record clearly is different for her. It
Hmm.
has a few bold ideas and takes on it, like the live recordings at the end, which I don't know what's kind of happening, whether it's the Spotify algorithm or if iHeartRadio shelled out a lot of money or what. But Heart of Glass, the live version, which
Dude,
it's like one of her biggest songs off the record, and that's confusing to me, but it's also awesome
it's
because, like, back to
so
the top,
good.
just because her voice changed and she healed it and it was damaged, she still has the control. She doesn't miss a note live. I mean, she would be a great
Right.
concert to go see. But
Hmm.
so what's your take on her? I guess why I bring this in to, like, really diving into, like, this 80s aesthetic, having some amazing, amazing OGs on the record, but as well still keeping it current with the Dua Lipa, who's like one of the biggest pop stars in the world right now. She's the fourth most listened to artist on Spotify as we speak.
Hmm.
And also, like, why do you think it is that the super rock versions are only the live sort of bonus tracks, but on the album it's a little more pop? Like, is there still some machine behind that? I know there's a lot to unpack, but this is where my mind goes when I like am asked to dissect and review an album. I want to do it. I want to do the whole thing different, essentially. So, what's your take on all that?
I'm picking up what you're putting down there, Chris. Basically, well, first I'd like to say that Heart of Glass, that cover is amazing. I went and I wasn't familiar with the original song before seeing that it was on Miley's album. But it's a dope song, and Blondie is every song I've heard by Blondie is great. Never really dove in, but maybe I should. Um,
I was thinking to myself when I was looking at the guest features, I was thinking there's only two people that she didn't get who were defining women of rock and roll, and it was Blondie and it was Pat Benatar. And I like that she threw the Cranberries in there. I would say they're a
mhm,
little later on. They're not
right,
as OG as the ones that she got. She
right, and I
from the
think that
60s
like
and
that's one of
70s. And
those.
I also, because I also didn't know that Heart of Glass was a Blondie song until I went and looked it up. And I was like,
Mhm,
oh, so she did get a little Blondie in there. That's cool.
mhm,
She knew what she was doing, in other
right,
words.
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
how I
yeah,
felt.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I
Badass
mean,
song.
definitely a badass song. It's so good, and I'm finding that with her live stuff, she likes to go like more rock live than on her albums, which like is essentially what you're asking me, like why that is.
Hmm.
I mean, I think that uh, for one, it's just like you think whether you agree with me or not. I feel like a rock show, as far as like a live show atmosphere, feeling, performance, experience, whatever you want to call it, I just feel like a rock show is like the best show you could go to, if you know what I mean. Like as far as like live energy, like obviously a lot of pop shows like Katy Perry and stuff with like the choreographed dances and everyone costume changes and all the effects and stuff. It's all really cool. Um, but that also kind of reminds me of like when you'd go to Disney World and go see like the Indiana Jones show. Like kind of reminds me of that. And like I feel like with a rock show, it's just like here's the band most of the time, also the people who wrote the songs, and they're just playing them. And sometimes they're a little different. Other times it just sounds real and right in front of you, and it's just so cool. And like the energy is just different. I don't know, it's just cool. So I think that's probably part of it because I know on Bangers she did a bunch of like choreographed dances and the stuff I was just describing that like Katy Perry does, but I don't know. I just feel like Miley is more of like a legit, like I don't know. Like I feel like she's more of a singer than a performer, if that makes sense. Even though she's also an actress, so I feel like it doesn't make sense what I'm saying. But like I don't know. It's just I feel like it's easier to make a kick-ass rock show than like a kick-ass pop show, if that makes sense. And like
Yeah.
I said
But I'd
before,
say it's hard
I
to do the
saw
kick-ass rock show well.
right. Um, but like I said before, like she did a I think it was BBC, but I'm not sure. Like she did a BBC live thing for Midnight Sun, and it was like totally different than the recorded version, and it was just so cool. And I think that with the pop songs, you also listen to like the production and like the beat and all that stuff, which like it is not bad, but it sort of takes your attention away from like the singing and the song itself and everything. And I think that with like the organic instruments, it's more like, I'm gonna borrow a phrase
I
from my
hate that
roommate
term.
Scott.
You mean instruments?
Is that what did I say?
You said organic instruments?
Yeah, I meant like as opposed to like a synth.
So instruments.
Sure, okay, whatever, Chris.
I'm just saying.
I'm sorry. Do you want to say it?
No, keep going. I like where you were going. I just think it's hilarious that it just shows how we are truly the cattle being herded.
I'm saying that there are songs on this album produced by Mark Ronson, and then there are other songs that are produced by Andrew Watt. And I'm talking about the songs mainly produced by Andrew Watt are like, well, no, I guess here's what I'm saying. Let me bring it back. With the pop songs like Prisoner or like Midnight Sky, like the production is really cool and the beat is really cool and all that stuff. So like that's also part of it. And then when you go live, it's like, to borrow a phrase from my roommate Scott, she leans more on her performance than on the song, you know? So
Yeah.
like
Guys, Sports with Scott, episode 49, coming in with wisdom yet again. I agree
true.
100%.
True. So like you listen to Midnight Sky, the recorded version, you're like, wow, this song kicks ass, you know. Boom, do 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 do. It's so good. It's like a great line. The melody is all great and the production is great. It's awesome. And then you watch this live version where it's literally like the drums is just like a light beat, just straightforward beat on the hi-hat. A dude's playing an upright bass, like it's just really soft, and then she's just right there, just like belting out. She's not dancing around, she's just standing there at her microphone just singing,
It
and you
works.
just like, and your eyes are just drawn to her because you're like, holy crap, this girl is singing the crap out of the song.
It works. That's for sure. Yeah,
So
you know,
I
I
think
agree
that
with
was
all
kind
that.
of an all over the place answer to your question, but
No, but
I
you
think
like
it's,
her leaning into this rock edge. You think it
yes, I
works.
I like the songs where Miley's showing us that she can sing and not just that she knows talented songwriters.
Yeah, I agree, and that's what was really impressive about this album is how she worked the new angle to me. And you know, I was a little scared at first seeing like the album artwork. I was like, "Oh no, more pop stars just invading this kind of like low-key 80s movement. Here
Right.
we go again." I thought to myself, "Here we go again." Then that song and I was like, every time something is a little like, presents itself to be a little tepid or trepidatious to me, I'm like, I just hear that song in my head and that one line. And so I thought that, and I was just like, great, what are we getting into? And I was pleasantly surprised because let me tell you, man, this album not only has the 80s aesthetic, and of course, some of the songs like Midnight Sky and, Night Crawling, which features an 80s legend, Billy Idol, the man, the myth, the
And
legend himself.
someone who's not featured in the title playing drums on that song is Taylor Hawkins, aka the drummer of the Foo Fighters.
Huge, absolutely huge. Yeah,
Pretty
so
sick.
like she has like the synth wavy style aesthetic. Night New Arcades is a synthwave band. If you guys want to learn more about that genre, I know it's still a little low key. We interviewed them on the show, and so I was like, oh
Great
god,
guys.
is this like is this just going to be another The Weeknd thing? Because I don't think The Weeknd did it well. I think he actually kind of really
Well,
did
Elton
it
John
bad.
would disagree with you.
Yeah, well, I would say, hey, look, Elton John, we have different tastes. Obviously, you're an incredibly musician, and there's no way I can ever touch you in regards to that. But I think we see things differently, and that's okay.
Right. And that's
But
funny, real
listen,
quick, I just want to say the thing that I thought when I first heard that Weekend song, Blinding Lights, right? I was just like, this is just the 2010s version, or I guess now 2020 version of Take on Me by Aha. I was like it's not like a direct rip, obviously, but it's just like starts with the crazy synth lead and then it drops out and then it comes in with the part of singing, you know? And it's just like
yeah, it's
I,
just
I'm not
not.
angry about it. I love that song, and I think that Blinding Lights is a catchy song, but I don't think it's like the greatest song of the year or anything.
Yeah, that melody seems so starter pack 80s to me. So I really just highly dislike it. But anyways, for in the regards to the Miley Cyrus album, I think she really worked it and did a
Mm-hmm.
great job. So to get more specific, there's so many subtleties to the decade of which she is borrowing heavily on the aesthetic of in this record.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, track two, Plastic Hearts. That gives me a huge Rolling Stones vibe in the beginning of that song. I believe it's I always forget the name of this song, man. The one from yeah, Gimme Shelter. You know, it's got like that Mick Jagger sort of like ow thing that starts in the beginning, the ow, like it has that, and it's the exact pitch, the exact timbre. I feel like it really borrows from that song, and I'm pretty sure I know that that was some of the inspiration behind that track. It has like that like homage, the sort of like ad libbing that they would do back in the day for rock and rolls in that one. For
Mm-hmm.
example, with like night crawling, the exact one of the exact notes and another one of those ad lib things that Billy Idol does in White Wedding, arguably his biggest song, is in Nightcrawling, which is awesome. And then also on The Edge of Midnight, which is the remix, which the jury's out on how I feel about that one, but it is still cool that not only on that song does she use some of the original melody of Edge of Midnight to sort of reprise and recreate. There's another track in this album where she hits you with that one Stevie Nicks, ooh, you know it's true. I think it's actually Edge of Midnight where she does that, but that ooh is the exact ooh
Oh,
from the
are
Fleetwood
you
Mac.
talking about Midnight Sky? Midnight Sky is the original version. Edge of Midnight is the mashup.
Yeah, exactly. So Midnight Sky, like she
Yeah.
calls back to so respectfully what she is clearly homaging to on the record, and I think it shows great tact by the songwriters of the album. It shows that she's not just some girl who was like, I like, I'm a pop star and I like this 80s trend and I want to capitalize on the trend. It's like, nah, she knows what she's calling back to. Like, I think I could sit down and chat with her for like 3 hours about classic rock, and I think she'd actually
Right.
tell me a few names I never heard before.
Right.
So I
Well,
really
I
feel the
could,
respect to the decade of which she's.
if you want, on her Instagram post where she was like, "Hey, this album's #1 rock album in America. That's pretty freaking cool." She gives a tiny, like, one sentence paragraph thanks to Joan Jett, Stevie Nicks, and Billy Idol. If you want me to read either of them,
I
I
would love to
can.
hear that. Yeah.
Okay. So she thanks all three of them right before it, but I'm just going to skip to the personal ones. Joan Jett, I have you to thank for my love of leather, playing music at an unholy level of loud, and my uncompromising sense of self. I fucking love you. Stevie. It's a pretty good thing to say to Joan Jett. Stevie, your words have been coming out of my mouth since I can remember, but mine flowing from yours is still surreal. Your generosity is unrivaled. Thank you for lending your magic. I am forever your smiley baby. I love you. Billy fucking Idol. We've been rebel yelling since 2012 when I bought a photo of you when I brought a photo of you to the salon and said I want to look like that. You are brazen, bold, unapologetic, and authentic in a way that is my honor to witness. I appreciate you deeply.
Exactly. Like she knows the source material here. Like you
Mm-hmm.
could just tell she's not just some like
Yeah.
label
She's freaking out.
born product who's like, "Hey Miley, I know you're set for a comeback and we got to shake things up and this 80s thing is pretty in right now. How would you feel about doing a few songs in that style?" Like,
Mm-hmm.
she's not like this isn't the suits telling her what to do here. This is
Right.
her. You could clearly tell it's her following her heart, and I love it, man. I think it's phenomenal.
Right.
And in Night Crawling, dude, I don't know how much you've listened to Billy Idol. I've kind of really gotten into new wave lately, so I've dipped my head a bit quite
Obviously,
into his
I know the
catalog.
hits, but that's it.
It just sounds like such a Billy Idol song. I love it. It's
Well,
so it's so true. It's like so,
it's true.
man. She nailed it, man. She really did.
Well, Billy Idol is one of the one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 songwriters on that song. So
Yeah.
one of which also is Ryan Tedder, who co-wrote a lot of this album, which I think is really cool. I feel like listening to all these songs and albums that I've learned Ryan Tedder helped produce and write, he just seems so good at like not overstepping where he is. He's just like, hey, I know what you want the song to sound like, and let's make it sound like that. Like he did it with Taylor Swift. He does it with Miley Cyrus. He did it with Beyonce. Like the dude is a good songwriter.
Totally. Yeah. Well, we can definitely do a podcast on him down the line because he's amazing. Yeah, he brought the best out of this record for her,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, and I'm sure she did honestly contribute a lot. I know it's tough. I don't think she plays. I mean, she probably plays like a little bit of guitar or something like that. But
She definitely plays guitar and piano.
yeah. But I mean, hey, look, she produced a phenomenal record. Now there are a few things though on the back end of this album that I think, if we're talking about the album, right, and how
Mm-hmm.
an album has to have this uniformity, I think there are a few sort of missteps in regards to like High. I love that song. I think it's one of the
That
best songs on
song
the record,
that song is amazing.
but it feels like it came out of left field. It's so country, and it's so Zach Brown. Like I thought Zach Brown wrote it with her because I know sometimes he writes with people, and he didn't. But I was like, God damn, I could swear this is like a Zach Brown song.
Yeah.
It just comes out of nowhere, and I feel like that.
Yeah, it's interesting now looking at it. It was co-written by two ladies who aren't on any other songs on the album.
Yeah, and that might be part of it too, right? A couple different opinions. It's a great song. It's got to make the album, obviously, but I feel like maybe that might have been better to stash to like get back to the old Miley like days of, because not that she was ever true country, but like I feel like she had that song "The Climb," and it kind of like harkens back to that in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, that like older Miley Cyrus day. But obviously, what she's singing about is her battle like through rehab and all that, and it just kind of fell a little bit out of left field for me because you have like this really rocking 80s synth drenched pop neon album, and then you have like this like grassroots pick up the acoustic guitar, go on the ranch on your front porch, Billy Ray sitting drinking an iced tea, and you're playing him your newest country song for him. Like I was like, okay, it's a little out of left field, but I loved it
Right.
either way.
Well, it's interesting because I just felt like, I mean, I mostly agree with everything you just said. I did feel like the track listing, like the order on this album was kind of weird because I felt the same way. You listen to What the Fuck Do I Know, it's just like this in your face rock, bop. And then it goes into Plastic Hearts, which is like pretty much the exact same sound. It's just like another high energy rock song. And then it goes into Angels Like You right after that. And I was like, wait, what? Third song and we're already dialing it down like this?
And Angels Like You is arguably my favorite song on the record. It's stuck in my head
Right.
the most.
It's really good and it's a rock ballad. And
But I
then
would
but
almost
then
want to hear that like a track 6 or 7.
that's what I'm
Like
saying.
after the next song and
Cuz
the
then
next
it
guy.
goes into Prisoner, which is like one of my favorite songs on the album that's stuck in my head literally every day. Like that chorus melody is just it's so good. And I mean, I know it's basically just Physical by or Let's Get Physical by Olivia Newton-John, but it was good then and it's good now, so I don't really care.
Yeah, it's
Um
popping. It's
yeah. But again, and then it goes into Gimme What I Want, which is, which I feel like kind of
you know what
reminded
I
me of.
want. Sorry, wrong
That's
song.
funny. That's the one you thought of, and I thought of "Give Me What I Want" by which is Avril Lavigne.
Oh, I thought of Avril Lavigne in the first track. WTF do I know?
That's cool. Um, Listening to this with again Scott from Sports with Scott. Go listen to that episode. He said that she's which I'm gonna say this, prefacing it with Scott is not really a pop guy. He doesn't listen to pop stars. He mixed up Lady Gaga and Christina Aguilera when he was talking to me before, so just take this with a grain of salt. But he said that this album, from what he was hearing, reminds him of Lady Gaga, and I couldn't agree more. Especially the one album of Lady Gaga that I was into so much, which is Art Pop. It's crazy how similar those two albums are because Manicure, well, that's a song. Hold on, I'm sorry. Art Pop, Lady Gaga album. Um, I mean, I don't think all of the songs on Miley's album is about sex, but there's a lot of sex in her album, and Art Pop also is very sexual when it comes to the lyrics and stuff. But it also like is super. I mean, it's not 80s really at all because it was co-produced by Zedd on some of the songs, so it's actually like pretty like for the time modern EDM sounding and all that. But it also had some rockin' bass lines and guitar shreds and her getting into the raspy singing. So I don't know if I mean, we already spoke about how her voice just got raspy from her life and partying and all that stuff. But like, I don't know if Lady Gaga's past is similar to that, which is why she's got her rasp. But Lady Gaga's rasp is awesome and she plays it so well. And it was just I went back and listened to Art Pop after Scott said that, and it's just crazy how similar they are, like in almost every aspect, like the wild outfits, the personality, just being like I'm the shit, so move
Hmm.
out of the way, and then like the sexual lyrics, the awesome modern pop, but also calling back to old sounds, and then also like the rock and guitars and stuff. It's just like it's just crazy. She's really pulling from a lot of other artists. And what was the song? I can't remember if it's. I think it's the beginning of "Hate Me." I thought I was listening to Nelly Furtado, like the way
Yeah,
she sings those verses. Like it's just really cool that you can tell that she's just also a really big music fan and pulls in a bunch of stuff that she likes.
exactly. No, I mean, I think a good musician doesn't just listen to one style of music.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know other types of genres because how do you stand out? You stand out by bringing your influences to the track, and I clearly think she did that with all the songs. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, I do have one more complaint on the record before we get out of here.
I
It's
have a
Bad
feeling
Karma.
it's. I was just gonna say that there was only one song I like, just don't like.
See, I'm not the biggest Joan Jett fan. I actually like, I'm not in a punk rock band anymore. I don't listen to hardcore music at all anymore, guys, but I still do listen to a lot of like 90s and 80s punk rock just to like, I don't know. I still enjoy it. Like it's this little bit of angst I still have left. And so Joan Jett like literally pioneered women in punk rock along with Blondie. So like I tried a few years ago to go back and listen. I honestly tried and it just is not for me. I always really hated I Love Rock and Roll. I thought that song is so boring and so overplayed. And every time I hear it, I'm just like, again, why do people like this song?
The only thing I would say about that is like
Sure.
I understand where you're coming from,
Yeah.
because I remember hearing that song and never being like, wow, this song is freaking crazy.
My dad
Um,
loves it. My mom loves it. I don't get it.
but here's what
Get
I'm
it.
saying. Imagine you had it. I feel like it's one of those songs where you had to have been there when it was released. Like I feel like when that song came out, you probably would have been like, holy shit, I do love rock and roll. Like,
Fair enough.
like
Yeah,
it's
you're
just
right.
it's
And
dope.
I do love rock and roll, which is why it kills me. But can
Yeah,
I
if
just say
anything, you should love it.
I've always thought that I Hate Myself for Loving You should be more overplayed than I Love Rock and Roll. Do you know that song
No,
by
not off
Joan
the top
Jett?
of my
It's like,
head.
I hate myself for loving you. Yeah,
Yeah, that song
that's her bigger.
rocks.
That's the smash of all smashes for me. Her song.
I think the
That I
problem with
argue.
the I Love Rock and Roll was I don't remember. I think it was Britney Spears, but I could be wrong. One of those big pop singers covered it, so I think that also boosted that popularity.
Fair enough. Not that song needed to be any more popular, but it certainly does help. But yeah, Bad
Right.
Karma. It's like it's obviously overtly sexual, and I get it. It's like the pop thing to do. I just think it's weird to do the pop thing with Joan Jett, who
Well,
is not the
I would argue
anti-pop back
I
in the
would
day.
argue that as much as that is kind of a pop thing, it's also just a Miley thing
It could
to
be.
be
Yeah,
pretty
look at the
sexual.
Wrecking Ball video and stuff.
I mean, literally look at anything after Can't Be Tamed. She was like
True.
doing this all the time.
Yeah, all right. Makes
So
sense.
I think that's just kind of like it goes with Miley for like any song. Like I think she could have very easily written the exact same song as High and changed all the lyrics to being about sex and like would have been the same thing, you know. I'm
Yeah,
glad she didn't, but I'm
it's
just
true.
saying.
It's true. It's not for me, and I don't think even though it has a chorus, and I'll admit it still is catchy, of course,
Right,
but it
yeah.
just doesn't get there to me. Like all the other songs hit that climax, and this song just doesn't quite get there for me, unfortunately.
And
Mm.
especially because it follows Hate Me, which I think is so good. You know, that's the one that's
Mhm.
oh wait, no, I was about to sing the wrong song. Anyway, that's the one that's like, what would happen if I died or something
Yeah,
in
great
the chorus.
song.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
so
that song,
good.
and if you listen to the Joe Rogan Experience podcast about it, it further enriches her, you know, try our struggles and triumph. She came out on the other side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this song to
Right.
me is just like I get it, bad karma. You made some bad decisions, and you're trying to like right the wrong and stuff. It's cool. Like the whole album is clearly about what she's been through and why she kind of was out of the public eye for a few years. Rehab and all that type of stuff. Vocal rehab.
Right.
I don't believe she actually went to a rehab facility, but still, she had an intense surgery. But it's just not for me.
Right.
It's kind of a setback in my opinion.
Right. I feel the same way. And then I feel like it almost caused me to forget about Never Be Me and Golden G String just because it was like after that song and I didn't really like that song. It was almost like all the songs before that got me in this groove where I'm like, hell yeah, this album's sick. And then like it gets to there and it's like I just stop and like get unimmersed from the album and I'm like, what's going on with this song?
Yeah,
And
and
it
lastly,
just seems like a weird like use of Joan Jett because she's not one of the writers of the song. So like they just had the song and they were like, yeah, Joan, like come on and be a part of it. And she's like, hell yeah, I'd love to. So like I kind of wish that she. I mean, I don't know if Joan Jett is known as a songwriter because I know that she wasn't the one that wrote "I Love Rock and Roll," but
couldn't tell
still,
you. Don't
still,
even want to speculate. Couldn't tell you. The last thing I want to speak about is the remix. What's your take on the Edge of Midnight remix?
I think it's freaking sweet. Um, and I was trying to think of like another example of something like this happening where someone took like an older rock song and like mashed it up with their own song, and I couldn't think of any, and I didn't really. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really like try to research it because I kind of
I thought
forgot.
of one,
Which is what?
the Eminem Joe Walsh remix.
Well, I wouldn't use that one because he does that all the time, and Joe Walsh wasn't a part of that song. So
Exactly, and that's why I think this is the first of its kind.
right,
Because I was gonna
exactly, because
say
this
that's
is
the
like
closest.
actually parts from both songs, and like she said, like she sings a part of Miley sings a part of Edge of 17, and Stevie sings some parts of Midnight Sky, and then they have the parts together, and like
Yeah, it's a
the
nice
choruses go
little
so
respect.
well together.
It's you know how like I feel like someone's gonna make a YouTube video about it. Did Stevie Nicks just pass the rock and roll Illuminati torch off to Miley
Right,
Cyrus?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like one of those kind of moments, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And YouTube, that was in hyperbole, so relax. But basically, I totally agree. I think I wanted to hate it because I think the word remix is the wrong word. It's a
Yeah,
reimagination.
I would just say it's a mashup.
Mashup, reimagination. I think mashup isn't
Yeah,
the most professional term, but I'd agree.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
wanted to
Remix
hate
is
it,
just not the right word.
but Stevie Nicks sounds so good on it, and Miley Cyrus and her together sounds so good, and I think it is that passing of the torch.
Dude,
And I
that's
would,
what I want to see. This is just a dream of mine. I don't think this will ever happen. The same way that Lady Gaga came out with an album with Tony Bennett, I want a Stevie and Miley album.
and I just want to say that like for all
I
the
think that'd
talk
be
we,
sick.
we we do about the Eagles, I had a choice, and I don't regret it. I chose to go see Fleetwood Mac over the Eagles. I went to this concert at MetLife Stadium, and Fleetwood Mac was the
Wow.
headliner, and I chose to go that night over the Eagles because tickets were super expensive.
I remember you telling me about this.
So like I really enjoy Stevie Nicks, and I was angry until I heard it, and then until I researched it and I saw that like, okay, Miley Cyrus did this in the most respectful way possible because she knows the source material, and she's bringing the spirit of what they were doing back then to the track. And so that's why I'm okay with it. Because, dude, I can't stand pop music for the reason that I hate that how much I love it, but I also can't stand it because I hate what it does to other genres. Because it's the
Right.
only thing the tabloids want to write about, and it's the majority of what people listen to. So it just makes other genres have to fight even harder to turn a buck. And what we know, go back and listen to our For the Nomads podcast, our future rock and roll podcast. Like it's hard to make money in. So it's just if you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna do something like this, do it the way Miley did it. It was beautiful. Like I can't hate the song at all,
Right.
but I
I thought it
wanted
was
to
awesome.
because at first I was like, man, this doesn't seem okay, but it's amazing. It's phenomenal. So
Right. And I think the fact that Stevie Nicks was a part of it and like also on the track singing some like a part they didn't just use Edge of 17 and put it in Midnight Sky. I think that that's a big part of it because if they just took like the parts of Edge of 17 and just put it in Midnight Sky, like I'd be like, I mean, that's it's definitely cool. It's something that I thought would just be something that somebody on YouTube would make and not the artist themselves, but it's cool. But I think the fact that Stevie is part of it makes it like the best way you could have possibly done that kind of song.
yeah, exactly, man. So all in all, final thoughts on the record. What's your takeaway from this album?
Um, my takeaway from it is that I think that Miley Cyrus is one of those people where because she, I guess a little less so now, but she like was always in the news and stuff for like being crazy and wild and stuff. People like forget that she's also really talented, and I think that at least most of the songs on this album really like solidify that for me that she at the end of the day is a really talented singer and performer and like I could pretty much listen to her sing most songs and I think it would be pretty awesome and kick ass and I'm gonna be listening to at least half of this album for a long time.
If you had to give it a rating out of, I don't know, I think they do albums out of 10. What would you give it?
I'm gonna give it like 7.5, maybe 8.
Yeah, I had to turn my camera off there for a second. Shocked me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, my
I would say 7.5 because like the songs that I really like, but then the songs that I don't love, like they're good, they're all right, but like there's only like 4 that are like stuck in my head all the time. And then there's one that I just don't like, so I'd say 7.5.
yeah, I think all the greatest artists have paid respect to people who came before them. If you look at the Beatles and how they all they wanted to do was make more doo-wop songs like the ones that they had grown up loving and put their spin on it. If you look at like Led Zeppelin, who wanted to do what the Beatles did, but put their spin on it. And so they always kind of look back to the people who helped them get to where they are. And she totally did this. And I think that's important for music history, preserving music history, and having that through line to show like this got us there. I think that's important because I love personally going back and seeing who my favorite artists were influenced by and learning new people. And Miley totally
Mm-hmm.
did that in the most respectful way on this record, even with like some of the wordplay, like, you know, she was Born to Run being a famous Bruce Springsteen song. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that to be a fact, but I just think there's so many different tidbits of that 80s culture nodding back to it that it's like, cool. Like this is how you should do this type of thing because
Mm-hmm.
it's important to not pretend like you're reinventing the wheel and you're the first one to do it, you know? Because that's just not that shows and that's why I can't get behind most of these pop phonies these days and their 80s aesthetic. It's just not true. It's not organic. So
For
she didn't
sure.
do that. And this album was amazing and phenomenal and I was completely blown away by it. So I got to go and give it an 8.5 because it's so good, man. The
Mm-hmm.
story of course really helped enrich the experience, but even if I hadn't heard that Joe Rogan podcast, I still would have loved the album as an album. So,
All right.
yeah.
There
Andrew,
it
we
is,
did it.
guys. We
It's an
did
hour
it.
down. Let's go get
We're
a
an hour
haircut.
down. Yeah. Let's go get haircuts, bro.
Next time you see us, we'll have a haircut. Cut.
Yeah, Chris is getting my hair put on his head and my mustache, and I'm getting his eyebrows put on my eyebrows.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good
Andrew,
time.
so before we do all these big changes to the show, why don't we tell them where they can find these changes?
Well, whatever kind of changes we ever decide to make to the show, maybe in 5 years, this show will literally just be us commenting on which button-up shirt Guy Fieri decided to wear today. You know, who I don't know where the future of entertainment is headed, but you better believe that we're going to be there talking about it. And no matter what we're talking about, you can find us on all the digital streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, Stitcher, all of those good ones.
Google
Chris is
Play,
pulling up.
you know.
There it is. Google Play. It's we're all over, man. If you're listening to podcasts somewhere, I'm like really sure that we'll be on there too. So just find us there. As you can see on the screen, if you're watching this on YouTube, we're on YouTube. You know, youtube.com/talking with Andrew and Chris. I'm pretty sure. Maybe it's Talking Podcast. If you type in all of those things, you'll find us, I'm sure.
You
It's
will.
all in the description. It's all everywhere.
Please
As you can
subscribe, give this video a like,
subscribe,
share it with a friend, turn on the bell for notifications, all
share it.
things that'll really help the channel out.
If you can see, oh, pointing in this way is so hard. If you can see like right where my finger's pointing, there's Talkin' TV also. Wherever you find this show, you'll find that show pointing somewhere to it. You'll find both of those shows there. Chris talks about TV, movies, all that kind of stuff with his
True.
co-host Dom. And
And
if you
Andrew's
think
on it as
I'm on
well.
it too. I'm on it too. Not
This
as much as
video right
them.
here, the pinned videos, me and Andrew just chatting about our favorite Star Wars video games.
That's true. That was a fun one. If you think that me and Chris talk a lot, then you should hear Dom. Dom's really good at talking.
But yeah, guys,
Um,
back to our show.
yeah.
We really appreciate all the support. Andrew, you're nailing
Hmm.
that. I'm sorry to sort of monopolize this, but I
Oh,
also want to let them know
also,
about the Instagram.
I was just about to do that. Social
Oh,
medias.
cool. Yeah, so Andrew, where
Social.
can they find us on the good old socials?
Well, Chris, I'm glad you asked. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff at Talkin' Podcast. Just subscribe to that. Follow us. Message us. Talk to us. We talk, but we also listen. Talk to us. Tell us who you want us to interview if you want us to interview someone. Tell us a topic you want to talk about. Tell us an album you want us to listen to. Tell us a video game you want us to play. Tell us anything. Tell
Yeah,
me tell me to dye my hair blue. Maybe I'll dye it green just to spite you. I don't know.
we're open to all ideas. And
We're open.
guys, if you guys remember, Andrew and I have been in bands together. We are going to launch a new musical project in 2020, and the best place you can find us, follow us, and keep up to date with all that, if you go to our Instagram, Talking with Andrew and Chris on Instagram, uh, Talking Podcast rather, you can find us in the description. Follow our personals because we have a lot coming your way. So
True.
yeah. So again,
We
guys,
always do.
content every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We appreciate you being here. We'll see you in next week's episode. We have a lot planned. On the horizon, we're hoping to lock down some interviews. We're going to be diving deep into some more albums and maybe even talking about a classic 80s act, considering we've been on that little roll lately. So we talked about the 80s today, but like we might even dive in and live in the 80s a little bit in recent weeks. So with that being said, I don't want to spoil it. We'll see you in the next podcast. Andrew, do you have something to leave the people with?
Eat carrots and stay sweet.
Yeah, keep that sugar down, people.